Clear.
Message.
All right, like I say, we're going to go for a little local flight here. I'll look at some autopilot behavior, maybe do a stall or two. Conditions today, well, a 3,000-foot broken ceiling. It may be bumpy underneath. I'm willing to bet that absolutely is bumpy underneath, which may make the autopilot explorations a little difficult. But we shall see.
Area traffic 75083, approximately 8 miles to the east, inbound for touch and go, runway 20, Bremerton.
So a little background on the autopilot. Autopilots that I have flown recently in the past, specifically the one that's found in the EC-135 helicopter, there is a behavior that when the autopilot is turned on and the aircraft is greater than 40 knots of airspeed, then the autopilot is in what they call attitude retention mode. Now that simply means that the autopilot will hold the current attitude. If you were to press what's known as a force term release button, the autopilot mode would then become short-term stability mode. You could fly the aircraft to a new attitude, and when you release the button, then the autopilot will maintain the new established attitude. So we have what we believe is the same behavior in the Dynon Skyview. That when you turn on the autopilot, at the moment of autopilot engagement, its two-axis autopilot will strive to maintain that current attitude, I think. In studying the books, I believe that may be true. This red button right down here says autopilot disconnect. We normally, when we got the autopilot engaged, we would hit that button to disconnect the autopilot. But the book says if you were to press and hold that button, then that would put you into what's known as control wheel steering mode. And then you would achieve that new attitude, and I think when you release that, it may maintain the new attitude, just like attitude retention mode did for the EC-135 helicopter. We're going to play with that and see what it really does, if the air is smooth enough. Because turbulence can tend to overwhelm the small servos on this autopilot. 2 Sierra Bravo, departing runway 20 Bremerton.
Bremerton traffic, 7462030, turning base, runway 20, Bremerton.
Okay, I'm going to trim the aircraft up, and I'm going to engage the autopilot, and we shall see if it holds the attitude. Engaged it in a roll and vertical speed of 0. All hands. Well, that's pretty cool. So it's in vertical speed mode, and it is in a roll mode, which is holding the axis attitude right where it's at. Okay. Now, having said that, this is the autopilot disconnect button. I'm going to press and hold it. It should put it into control wheel steering or something similar to it. Okay, here we go. Okay. Now it says autopilot disconnect, control wheel steering. So I'm going to move to a slightly banked attitude to the right. I'm going to release the button. I'm back into vertical speed and roll mode, and it's holding the current banked attitude. Attitude retention mode. Kinda. Look at that. A little turbulence. Will it hold? Let's back the power on here a bit. Now if it's going to hold a 0, it's pitching the nose up. Maintain a 0 rate of climb. Okay. I'll do control wheel steering again. Press and hold the red button. Autopilot disconnect, control wheel steering enunciators, and bank to the left, and release. Awesome. It's holding the banked attitude. Well, that is pretty cool. I like that. I'd like to find out if there's another way of going into control wheel steering besides pushing the big red button. So if I go, but let's roll the autopilot level first. Press and hold.
Cessna 5038.
Control wheel steering enunciation. Roll the wings level. Release. Again, roll mode, vertical speed. Okay, we're going to explore the autopilot panel here. Settling down on my heading. Okay, I'm going to go to control wheel steering mode, press and hold the red button.
Autopilot, disconnect.
Take a turn. Slightly off. Now let's watch and see what happens to my heading button. I'm going to roll out on 270. I'll release the heading button, and it snaps to my near current heading. That's interesting. That's very interesting.
North American Airlines and Charlie is setting up for the initial for the overhead pattern runway 20 via left 3, Robertson.
Sierra Bravo, clear the runway,